Yeah, hello everyone. Yesterday I started here saying that I was amazed to see so many people and I was full of energy, and then today over the day, like the energy levels dropped a little bit, and I would say just about like half an hour ago I was, like out of sugar, but what did I do? I went out, I ate 2 of these like sugary kind of like things, and it pumped me back up again. So here I am trying to finish this conference in style. How about you? Are you feeling okay? That sounds great. Okay. What am I going to do in the following 5-6 minutes? I hope to keep this brief. I want to return a bit to what we did yesterday, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into the title of the conference. Do we see it here? We see it on the left. The New Common Sense: Forging the Cooperative Digital Economy. And I really want to focus on one of the words in there, and that's the word cooperative. And that's nothing special maybe, but I want to make it more precise. I want to focus on the question of cooperation. I want to ask what precisely it means to cooperate in the digital economy, and who is supposed to be cooperating with whom, and to what end actually, and what would an ecosystem look like that explicitly fosters cooperation. So it's about the question of ecosystems and about institutions that can create and can make this ecosystem thrive. But before I do all of that, and I will do this in a brief, only briefly, but before I start with that, let me rewind a bit and take this from the beginning. So for the past 3 years, I immersed myself pretty deeply in this platform co-op ecosystem, in my role as a researcher also. And my aim was pretty simple, actually. I wanted to understand whether platform co-ops actually cooperate with one another. Or, excuse me, but to put it a little bit more academically, whether this frame of platform cooperativism is not only a frame, but also a descriptor for a strong network, one that is able to support itself and its various member organizations across both sectoral and national boundaries. So what is this actually, platform cooperativism? And while I was sketching out this project of mine, a rather popular song from a German band from the 70s was stuck in my head. Allein machen Sie dich ein. That's a song by Tonsteine Scherben, for those of you who know it in the audience. And it translates to something like, alone we are powerless. And that might sound a bit pretentious. It is, but it's also true. So to put it in terms of the song, I wanted to know whether platform co-ops were actively trying to be less alone. And with this mantra in mind, in the words of Stacco, I traveled to Paris, Barcelona, Berlin, New York City, and Baltimore, among other places, and I seeked out founders and members of platform co-ops, seek out digital activists, social entrepreneurs, many of whom are actually in the room here today. I don't want to point any fingers because maybe people don't want to be associated with this. But I posed all of these people actually the same questions, and I asked, what do you concretely do to support the platform co-op ecosystem? What kind of services do you, maybe not you, but you with your organization, provide? Do you participate in networks with other platform co-ops? If yes, what do you get out of these networks? And if no, under which conditions would it make sense for you and your platform co-op to participate in such a network? And so now I want to take you a little bit in the next 3 minutes through this journey and what I learned. And because I was confronted with quite opposing perspectives. So on one hand, I met a variety of people who emphasized difficulties. It's not possible to cooperate with other platform co-ops. It makes no sense. That was the first frame, and in New York City, for example, a founder pointed towards this additional workload that is associated with cooperation. More meetings, more gatherings, more duties, just like us today, like it goes longer and you have less time and, you get a bit tired. And that could quickly overwhelm the members of the platform co-op, as the founder argued. And then others emphasized that they would be very willing to cooperate with other platform co-ops, but only if this would bring concrete and tangible benefits. So in Berlin here, I had a conversation where a founder said, and this is a quote, I feel like I am part of a group, but I don't necessarily know what that brings. I haven't seen any help, like access to funds. So that's what's lacking. So one result of this perceived lack of immediate benefits of cooperation is that many platform co-ops orient themselves towards either to other ecosystems, and that could be different ecosystems. In France, most of the time it was the social and solidarity economy. In the US, many of these worker co-ops told me that actually the most important institution with which they cooperate is the Federation of Worker Cooperatives. So what's the overall picture that we saw here is that it's quite simple. Platform co-ops do cooperate. They cooperate, yes, but not necessarily as platform co-ops. Instead, platform co-ops direct their attention elsewhere, for example, to the Federation of Worker Cooperatives. And this in turn makes participation in this platform co-op ecosystem more of a burden than a solution. And that's not to say there's something bad with cooperating with the Federation of Worker Cooperatives, but of course, why then also participate in this ecosystem here? But then the longer this journey continued and the more people I spoke with and the more immersed myself, the more nuanced this picture became actually. So after I'd spoken with more and more people who clearly emphasized the benefits of cooperation, it became quite clear to me that platform co-ops do, in many ways, cooperate as platform co-ops, but that other institutions usually mediate these dynamics. So that might sound now very academic and abstract to you, so let me make this very concrete. Picture yourself, summer day, Berlin, 2019, it's not cold outside, it's like a Saturday, and you're probably going to have like a nice beer in the afternoon or something, so it's a good day. That's where you picture yourself now. And that's where I was. And that was a week in which the delivery platform, Deliveroo, they gave up on the German market, basically from one week to the other. And they deemed it not profitable enough. So they just said like, well, fuck it, we're out of here. And this meant that from one week to another, thousands of workers were out of a job. But the response of these workers was actually quite surprising. Instead of simply moving on to the next exploitative platform, many of them just had enough. They wanted to build their own platform, one whose rules they could determine themselves. So, and now to get back to my point, this laborious point about the institutions, etc., in this precise moment, on this summer day and the days afterwards, the existence of a platform co-op ecosystem here in Berlin paid off. Because what the ecosystem institutions here in the city were able to do was to nudge these workers in the right direction, to connect them with the relevant people. So for the software, the former Deliveroo workers were able to integrate into the Co-op Cycle Federation, and that quickly allowed them to go back into business. And for their legal status, they were able to strike a deal with Smart, allowing them to operate as freelancers who nevertheless can benefit from protection rules. In other words, these workers, they did not need to start from scratch or reinvent the wheel. Instead, they were able to benefit from previous experiences. And the platform co-op Cora, here today, Mattia, I don't know if you're still in the audience. No, but they were here today. They are a result of this process. So what do we learn from this story? What this example of Berlin illustrates is that platform co-ops do cooperate with one another, both across sectors and across borders, as this example of Cora shows, but that these dynamics are mediated. Put differently, the work of making cooperation in a cooperative digital economy feasible cannot be done by the platform co-ops themselves. For this, we need strong ecosystem institutions that can actually support them. And what did I learn in my conversations about where does cooperation then already happen? Where do these institutions exist that can make this cooperation possible? Well, I think there's three things where we see this. The first is infrastructure. We've discussed this throughout the days. Cooperative federations such as Open Food or Co-op Cycle, they can provide platform co-ops in concrete locations with the tools they need to kickstart their business. It's either franchising or it's shared services approaches, and we've heard this from Vera, we've heard this from Morshid. And then the second question around which we already see a lot of cooperation between platform co-ops is expertise. And the example of Cora really shows this. Because the founding process of a platform co-op can be quite messy. I mean, we had a workshop just on this topic here today. A lot of questions to answer. What is the right legal form for which business model? How can we write the right bylaws? How to acquire the initial loan? And all of these questions require expertise. And this expertise needs to be gathered by a specific institution in a specific place. And the third question then is lobbying. We also talked about this today in the policy panel here. And one person said, well, we need to stop being ashamed of this term lobbying. Platform co-ops need to lobby for themselves. And we saw this in the lead up to the federal elections here in Germany, where a lot of platform co-ops here also cooperated in order to devise policy recommendations that could then be put to use for the election campaign. So these are three elements where we see precise cooperation because it makes sense for the platform co-ops. It's not an end to itself. So what are the key takeaways? My last sentences. First, I think we have to be clear that cooperation can never be an end in itself. Platform co-ops already have enough on their plate as is. I mean, they try to compete with the platform capitalists while managing cooperative governance at scale. And to me, if I'm honest, that's quite a lot already. So we need to be clear that platform co-ops are unlikely to actively seek out cooperation if it brings no tangible and concrete benefits to them. But, and this is more important to me this night, second, there is still a variety of questions around which no cooperation among platform co-ops is taking place. And primarily, this is the question of financing. It is clear that as of now, the platform co-op ecosystem is not yet strong enough to provide this kind of resources to the platform co-ops through itself. It is dependent on other sort of ecosystems and institutions to support it. So where does this leave us now with regards to this notion of forging a cooperative digital economy, what we put in the title so prominently? So the claim that I'm making right now is that to realize this aim of forging this cooperative digital economy, this requires strong ecosystem institutions that are able to bring together the right people at the right time, that are able to bridge experiences and cultural differences. As was said before, that it doesn't need to be that to create a we, but there need to be linkages between different groups, and we need institutions that are able to create these linkages. Or put differently, to succeed, the platform co-op ecosystem needs to make cooperation among platform co-ops common sense. And for this, institution building needs to be high on our agenda. Thank you very much.